Hey guys, wanted to make a video as a lot of people, since I'm in the health and fitness space, I have gotten a lot of questions still about this Game Changers film. I refuse to call it a documentary. A documentary is supposed to show both sides of a story. A film is just that. When you have James Cameron, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jackie Chan involved, I don't want to oversimplify anything or push one way or another on biasing. I want to talk about what our best takeaways from the whole situation are. So I do believe, straight up, as simple language as possible, that it is a very manipulative, one-sided film. Okay. I'm going to go into some details about why I think that is and what we can all take away from that. A lot of smarter people than me have already bashed and broken down scene by scene, so I'm happy to link to that or share with you guys on that if you need it. At the same time, you can probably find tons of vegan and vegetarian folks who are, really supporting that case, the case for the movie and veganism in general. That said, number one, if you're all for animal welfare and you want to not eat meat because you have trouble with ethically putting something that was alive in your mouth, that's a conversation that, again, is not my place to convince you otherwise. So I can respect that. I certainly, when someone tells me that, that's okay. That's I respect that. In terms of the health implications, though, that's where I have to take a very significant stance, to the point of I want to make this movie because a lot of people I care about, a lot of people I like, a lot of people I respect have come to me saying, "Hey, have you seen this? Like, this makes a lot of sense, and or is very convincing," which is what it's meant to be. I don't want to go down the paranoid rabbit hole of follow the money, and I've heard, I've looked up a lot of the stuff on this too, in understanding what the situation is. And James Cameron, I think his wife has a multi-million-dollar investment in like a pea protein company. I don't believe that anyone involved in that project, or that too many of the people involved in that project don't have some kind of financial benefit from it. I have no financial benefit from this video. And furthermore, I believe that, their intentions are not really to spread health and to really look at the science. They also, some of them might be, some of them are good people. Again, I don't want to go down this path of judgment. That's where we are, though, is this divisive thing. You want to have a label. You're either a meat eater or a vegan or a vegetarian or plant-based, which is another problem I had with the movie. They use the term plant-based, even when they're talking about the fighter Nate Diaz, who happened to beat Conor McGregor, when they're talking about it. And they also ignore the fact that Conor McGregor then went and beat Nate Diaz in a fight a few months later. There's all sorts of stories around that. But the point is, Nate Diaz also eats fish, shrimp, so he's not, and eggs, I believe, and so he's plant-based. So again, what does plant-based mean? They never define it. You can be 51% plant-based and 49% a meat eater. I think they throw out Tom Brady too. People like to throw out Tom Brady as plant-based again, and then it gets caught up into this vegan vegetarian thing. So again, when we're using these terms, we're in this age of overstimulation, over data, so it's easy to manipulate a lot of that, and it's easy to get caught up or just find the simple answer that makes the most sense to our brain. That's how our brains work. So, again, this whole way that movie was structured is, it was this us versus them. Nate Diaz, plant-based, he beat Conor McGregor, meat eater, steak eater. The way they do it, it's a phenomenally well done film. The production value is absurd. I don't think there's a movie coming out this year that's meant to support eating meat, sort of. Again, sustainable farming, all these kind of boring things that are not going to be sexy. It's not going to be anywhere near as popular as Game Changers. And I don't think they're going to have guys like James Cameron behind it. So Um, Unfortunately, again, it's this us versus them. Not to go down the politic path, but again, in this country, we have so much, and in the U.S., we have so much Republican, Democrat, liberals, conservatives. It drives me crazy. I have my beliefs. I'm happy to share them, but if we can't have a conversation about this stuff, what? It's a fascinating age we're living in, and again, as a healthcare provider, my main objective is to help people figure out what's going to get them feeling better, living better. And this is another debate I've had, which I don't want to go down the path of right now, but around like, if Zumba makes you feel better, awesome. If being a vegetarian makes you feel better, awesome. But don't, if you're going to cite Game Changers, the documentary, at me, we just need to have a little bit more to that conversation. And again, it's a tricky thing. There's a lot of emotion caught up in it. I feel like sometimes with this vegetarian vegan thing, it's more intense than politics or religion. And it, again, I'm only here to try to have a calm dialogue about the science. Again, when it comes to medical advice, you should not be watching a film and then deciding, oh, this makes a lot of sense, I'm going to go vegan. And if you do choose to go vegan, vegetarian, plant-based, whatever all those mean, I highly recommend you go get labs, you blood work, you understand the common things that are problematic with that type of diet. Again, B12, folate, niacin, all these different vitamins and minerals, nutrients that can be a problem that, again, most vegans, vegetarians, plant-based people admit is deficient and very difficult to get from that diet. So again, just as a little more color to this, if you're still listening, awesome. If you're, if I went in after this, the filmmaker James Wilkes, who actually lives very close to where we just moved out here in Orange County. So there's some interesting, stories I've heard from folks who know him. And again, I heard Chris Kresser did the Joe Rogan podcast where he debunked a lot of the things in the film, a lot of the science that they quote. Then James Wilkes was on to retort that debunking. That Kresser's was 3 hours, James Wilkes was 4 hours, him and Kresser with Joe Rogan. Again, James Wilkes won that debate in terms of how the flow went, but the reality of it is he didn't really have the science. He just was overbearing and did a lot of things that won the debate. Just because you win a debate does not mean you are right. You won, but you're not necessarily right. So there is a huge difference. He just overpowered it. And again, he attacked Kresser. Kresser had no interest, from my assessment of it, in engaging and mudslinging and attacking him. And James Wilkes said, oh, I have 3,000 hours and I did another 1,000 hours to follow up to this. And so, that's his, and he kept saying that. At no point did we acknowledge Chris Kresser's God knows how many hours. I'm sure it's more than 4,000 hours as far as treating patients, seeing the negative effects of vegan, vegetarian, plant-based diets, helping people overcome this. He has a whole different thing. I'm not here again to talk about that. I did find that very fascinating from what the outcomes were of it. What Joe Rogan's take on it was. He said, "Hey, vegans, you should check this out." It was a little clickbaity. It felt like he said, "You should check this out." Wilkes definitely wins this one. And then a few days later, he's posting a picture of eating elk, sweet potatoes, and like Brussels sprouts as his meal. So everyone's like, "Whoa, we thought you were on our side." But again, that's what it has to be, these sides. There's no like, what's the situation? And at the end of the day, Chris Kresser as well saying, you know what, dude, James Wilkes, we agree on like 98% of things. Why are we debating, and why are you so against, like, all meat is bad? Like, again, when we get into a little bit more of the science here, yeah, there's problems with factory farmed meat. The animals don't get treated very well. The quality of the meat gets, watered down, if you want to call it that. There's antibiotics. There's all these problems that we need to address. And there are better ways to eat. You vote with your dollars. So, again, I would say I'm plant-based. I try to eat as many vegetables and fruits as possible, but I also strongly believe that eggs are very good for us. We want to get the best quality eggs, steak, fish that we can, wild-caught fish, grass-fed, grass-finished steak. I want to be able to go to a farmer's market here and talk to the farmer and say, hey, what are these practices you guys are doing? There's a lot of good stuff out there. And if we can support this stuff, and I found since moving out here to Orange County, it's actually pretty hard to get organ meats and bones and things like that. I've been able to order that online through US Wellness Meats. There's some codes. If you want a discount, you can shoot me a message and we can talk about that. But anyway, there's ways to eat better. I think the last point I want to make, it's already a long video. It's a complicated topic again. So the last point I want to make is for them to say in the film that all these guys are exceeding expectations and dominating sports by being vegan, vegetarian, cutting out meat, the experiments that they do, the examples that they give. Again, I can debunk each one of those just about, if not on top of that. But again, that's all been done. I just want to say it's, to me, the biggest standout was to highlight one person who's achieved a very, impressive thing, being a vegan or plant-based person, and ignore the 99.9% of other people who have succeeded, won gold medals, been champions, who all eat meat. This one person succeeded despite whatever. It's a mind-blowingly crazy correlation, causation. It drives me crazy. There's no science there. It's easy to see it and be like, wow, this person did it without, eating any meat. So maybe that means I should eat no meat. It's a huge leap to make. There's so many factors involved. Again, they highlight one of the Olympic weightlifters, Kendrick Farris. All the athletes that they highlight, by the way, the majority of them were meat eaters up to a certain point. Kendrick Farris, for instance, had been an Olympian eating meat multiple times. And then he decided to go vegan or cut out meat at some point after his second Olympiad. And so after that, yes, cutting certain things out, unless you're looking at the quality of it. Again, some of these research studies, when they talk about meat, they're including Big Macs and pepperoni pizza. Yeah, that stuff is all great to cut out, but that's not like meat. That's not the kind of meat I eat. So anyway, I think it was very disingenuous, manipulative, the way they made that movie. I have I think a lot of people almost are scared to come out and say this stuff. We think that it's not going to make a difference because the people who believe it are already there. It's very difficult to change someone's mind. So I'm just putting this out there. Again, I hope that some of the people that I already know, that maybe we have a good relationship, respect me. If you never met me and things like that, hopefully this also makes some sense. I would love to keep this conversation going. Sorry for it being so long. Again, if you stuck around for the whole thing, I thank you. And like I said, I would love to take on specific questions, see what the feedback is from these concepts. I stand by all the points I made. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's a film. It was made to tell a story. I can't stand by the fact that it's very much a difficult path to be plant-based. You need to be very careful about not getting deficient in other things. You might feel better, you might lose weight when you initially switch to a plant-based diet, but that does not mean it is optimal for your health, for any part of you. Because again, there's people who can be plant-based and know their, cross their T's, dot their I's, and they understand how to do it. And again, it might work. I'm not saying it doesn't work for anyone, but to ignore, history, the paleo thing, again, we're not saying we need to eat like cavemen, but, for millions of years, we have eaten meat. All these arguments that are out there, our teeth are not meant to be eating meat. Like it's mind-boggling, some of this stuff. Yeah, I don't want to, like, I'm not here to insult anyone. I don't want to question people's intelligences. I really just want to have an open dialogue about this. And again, I do believe that there's a healthy way to eat. There's a lot of little things we can do to make sure you're eating the right way. If you want to do meatless Mondays, something like that, that's cool. Like, there is a problem of over farming meat, and the way that animals are treated is definitely a problem. So those are different conversations to have. But again, game changers, it's not science. It's an appeal to authority. It's an appeal to emotion. It's an appeal to storytelling and filmmaking that should not be the determining factor of your health or the way you choose to do things. Again, if it's a wake-up call for you to be healthier, awesome. But to say all meat is evil because gladiators did not eat meat, it's mind-boggling. Like, they were not elite athletes, they were slaves, they were kept there, and they were fattened up. Like, it's a very simple response. So again, I don't want to go point by point. I'm going to stop here. I hope you guys have a great day. Have a healthy day. Feel free to comment, share. Let's do this. Let's have a conversation. If you want to come in yelling at me, like, it's not going to go anywhere, but I'm happy to see where you're coming from, and let's do it. Have a great day.